What does Warren Buffett think of the American economy? A significant part of Warren Buffett's enormous financial success is built on the money he's put behind his unwavering belief that America's brand of capitalism, from the earliest days of its founding, has fueled ever-growing prosperity for its businesses and its people, and that it will continue to do so far into the future. 1997. Why America will remain competitive. At Berkshire Hathaway's 1997 shareholder meeting, Buffett explains why he's not worried the age of classical industrial America has passed.
Do you agree with the conventional wisdom that maintains that the age of classical industrial America has passed?
The world evolves in a way in a market society, so people do what they're best at. And this country's done very well in recent years, something like software, that where a Microsoft has been leading, or an Intel or something. I mean, we have done very well. 10 years ago, the American public was sort of down on itself, or 15 years ago, in terms of what the economy could do. But here we are with our unemployment rate in Nebraska. It's under 3%. And, you look at the countries of Europe that were supposedly going to beat us into the ground, or you look at Japan. And I think the American economy encourages adaptation. I mean, Singapore may be better, but in terms of major, large economies, I think the American economy does awfully well in encouraging adaptation to what people want, delivering it to them, and in ever-increasing amounts. And I view that as all to the good. So I don't regard any industry as sacred. I regard innovation and freeing up the able people to able in terms of production of goods in a market economy to spend 12 hours a day all the time. I don't see Andy or Bill letting up at all in terms of where Intel and Microsoft are now. I don't see Roberto Goizueta at Coca-Cola, or Michael Eisner at Disney, or any of those people. They don't work 40-hour weeks. They work 70 or 80-hour weeks. And I think that system works very well in this country, and I don't worry particularly about the specific products that are turned out.
2004. Despite challenges, optimism for America's future. Despite a war in Iraq, increasing consumer debt, and declining job growth, Buffett remains positive, pointing out that the country has always recovered in the past, even when facing an equally impressive number of negative factors.
In view of the Iraq war, consumer debt that's increasing, declining job growth, declining pay in the jobs that are growing, prospects of increased interest rates, what would your view be about the investment future for the next 5 to 10 years in view of all these negative factors going on?
Well, I would say that at any given point in history, including when stocks were their cheapest, you could find an equally impressive number of negative factors. I mean, you could have sat down in 1974 when stocks were screaming bargains, and you could have written down all kinds of things that would have caused you to say, the future is just going to be terrible. And similarly, at the top, or any time you can write down a large list of things that would be quite on the bullish side. We really don't pay any attention to that sort of thing. I mean, we have. You might say that our underlying premise, and I think it's a pretty sound underlying premise, is that this country will do very well, and in particularly it will do well for business. Business has done very well. The Dow went from 66 to 10,000 plus in the 100 years of the 20th century, and we had 2 world wars and nuclear bombs and flu epidemics, and you name it, Cold War. There are always problems in the future. There are always opportunities in the future, and in this country, the opportunities have won out over the problems over time, and I think they will continue to do so, absent weapons of mass destruction, which is another question. And business won't make much difference if anything really drastic happens along that line.
2004. A country characterized by lots of immigration. In response to a question about U.S. immigration law, Buffett talks about how he suspects America's incredible record of economic growth over the decades has been helped by the people who came to the United States from other countries.
What is your opinion on the current state of U.S. immigration law as it applies to the employment of highly skilled permanent workers?
I'm almost always glad to have very talented people come into the United States, and I'm almost never pleased when the very bottom of the mental barrel comes in.
We may differ just a bit on that one. This country has certainly benefited enormously over the decades, by immigration. We started out with 4 million people in 1790. China had 290 million at that time, just about what we have now. Europe had well over 75 million. So you had 70 times as many people in China. You had probably 20 times as many people in Europe. We had the same degree of intelligence in China or in Europe as we had here. We had similar natural resources, and now this country has well over 30% of the GDP of the world. So it's a pretty remarkable story. And how to attribute or how to quantify the various components that entered into that is very, very difficult. But we've certainly been a country characterized by lots of immigration, and whether that is responsible in any way for the incredible record of this country, I don't know, but I suspect that it was. And I think what Charlie would like to do is perhaps be the admitting officer, and it would work it would work pretty well if Charlie was. But in the absence of that, I think I don't think this country has been hurt by immigration over time.
2009, seeing past the Great Recession. Just months after a devastating credit crisis helps plunge the U.S. into its worst economic crisis since the 1930s, Buffett still believes the opportunities will win in the end.
If the Berkshire businesses are great, but the underlying economy is a problem, where do we go from there?
There's always a lot of things wrong with the world. Unfortunately, it's the only world we've got. I mean, so we live with it and we deal with it. But the beauty of it is, this system works very well. I don't have the faintest idea what's going to happen in business or markets in the next year or 2 years. But the one thing I know is that over time, people will live better and better in this country. We have a system that works. It unleashes human potential. If we'd had this room filled back in 1790 with 35,000 citizens of the United States, then they would have been just as smart as we were natively, their intelligence. They would have lived in a country with resources that obviously same fertile soil, the same temperature, the same minerals, all of that. So they were just as able as we are, but they weren't turning out anything like we turn out today. I mean, just look at how we live compared to those people several hundred years ago. We will have bad years in capitalism. I mean, it overshoots in markets. It gets overcome by fear and greed and all of that sort of thing. But overall, we move ahead, and we not only move ahead, we move ahead at a pretty damn rapid rate when you think about it. I mean, when in the 20th century we had a 7-for-1 improvement in living, and we did that. We had slavery for a long time. We had blacks counted as 3/5 of a person. We didn't let women vote for 130 years or thereabouts. I mean, we were wasting human potential, and we still are, but we were doing it more so for centuries. But we do keep moving forward in kind of fits and starts. And right now we're sputtering somewhat in terms of the economy, but the opportunities will win in the end. And your kids will live better than you live, and your grandchildren will live better. And we will find more and more ways to find easier and better ways to do things that we haven't even dreamt of yet. Charlie?
Well, now that I'm so close to the age of death, I find myself getting more cheerful about the economic future.
which I'm not going to be here to enjoy. And what I find really cheerful is that we are plainly going to harness the direct energy of the sun, and we're going to have electrical power all over the world, and that's going to enable overpopulated countries to turn seawater into fresh, and it's going to eliminate a lot of the environmental problems and preserve more of the hydrocarbon resources for future needs as chemical feedstocks. So I think it's usually a mistake to think only about your probable misfortunes. You should also think about what's good about your situation. And what's good about our situation now is the main technical problem of mankind is about to be fixed. You have enough energy, you can solve a lot of your other problems. He is getting more optimistic as he gets older.
2013, born in the USA. At the 2013 Berkshire meeting, Buffett acknowledges that he's benefited from luck, getting a huge advantage just from having been born in the United States. And he says he's not the only lucky one.
Bill Gross made recent comments that his generation of investors, yourselves included, owed a deal of their success to timing. Do you agree with Bill's comment? And do you think a similar opportunity will provide itself to today's investors? Thank you.
Yeah, there's no question that being born in the United States was a huge advantage to me. And as I pointed out in a recent article, being born male was a big advantage. I would not have had the same opportunities in the investment or in the business world remotely that I've had if I'd been a female born in 1930. And the timing could have been a little better. Actually, my dad was a security salesman, and I was conceived in November 1929, and if you remember, the stocks had gone down dramatically at that time, and there really wasn't anybody to call on for my dad, and there wasn't any television at home or anything. So here I am, so I feel myself very lucky that the crash of 1929 came along, and that also provided a decade, more than a decade, of people who were very turned off. Well, it was a decade of terrible business for quite a while, and then a decade or more of people that were turned off on stocks, just as we sort of had a decade like that in the past decade, going up to 2010 or so. A lot of people that had gotten turned off by stocks. So that was a favorable environment. But the United States itself was an incredibly favorable environment. If I'd been born 5 years earlier, I probably would have made more money. But if I'd been born 10 or 15 years later, I would have made probably less money. But I envy the baby that's being born today in the United States. I mean, I think on a probability basis, that's the luckiest individual that's ever been born. And I think that they will do very well in life in all kinds of ways on a probability basis, better than existed when I was born. And I think they'll have opportunities to do very well in the investment field.
2016. This country works. It's working now. During a presidential campaign in which Donald Trump was promising to make America great again, Buffett, a backer of Hillary Clinton's candidacy, tells Becky Quick on CNBC's Squawk Box why he takes issue with Trump's premise.
In your letter this year, you really took aim at some of the politicians who have been going around saying that things aren't going well in this country. You said that things are strong here. Is that a shot at thinking we don't need to make America great again?
Well, America's never been greater. I mean, you can look at, where we stand. I mean, it will be greater in the future, but America's never been greater. I mean, this is the best time to be alive in the history of the world. I mean, in terms of medicine, transportation, entertainment, you name it, or just in terms of aggregate wealth. Now, the distribution has gotten more and more skewed in recent years, and it should be skewed to quite a degree, but I would say the skewing has been excessive. But as I mentioned in the letter, I live in a upper middle class neighborhood. I mean, the median income might be $100,000 a year or something like that. And every person in that neighborhood lives better than John D. Rockefeller Sr. lived at the time I was born. In one man's lifetime, an upper middle class neighborhood has evolved to a way of life that's better than the richest man then in what was the best country in the world in 1930 was able to achieve. He had power and prestige and all of that. But in terms of medicine, entertainment, transportation, you name it, my neighbors are better off than he was. So this country works, and it's working now, but it's leaving a lot of people behind that are very good citizens, and we can do more for them, but we don't want to do it in terms of screwing up the golden goose.
"2017. America will do fine no matter who is in the White House." On the eve of Donald Trump's inauguration, after the Dow had rallied 7.6% since Election Day, Buffett is asked how he thinks the new president will affect the stock market in the months ahead.
What impact do you think that the new president will have on stocks?
Well, you saw what happened, but I don't think he is the key to it. I think America generally is the key to it. Certainly he has the most important job in the world, but America works, and it will work. And I've said this before, it will work wonderfully under Hillary Clinton. I think it will work fine under Donald Trump. I mean, we've got the secret sauce, and it doesn't work all the time perfectly, but you just look at where we go milestone after milestone, and never bet against America.
How to end the deficit per Warren Buffett.
I can end the deficit in 5 minutes. You just pass a law that says that anytime there's a deficit of more than 3% of GDP, all sitting members of Congress are ineligible for re-election. Yeah. Now you've got the incentives in the right place, right?
Buffett's bet on America has paid off for decades, and it's a reminder to zoom out and think long-term. If you're into smart investing takes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around.